2002 C5 Z06. Going to reinstall the supercharger. So we got our the mounting bracket is going to hold the supercharger in place with three, I believe they're all 13 millimeter nuts and bolts. I don't actually have a torque spec for those. I looked them up last time and looks like I had done 16 foot-pounds. Quick AI search gave me, I believe, 27 foot-pounds, which seemed a little bit high. So I'm going to creep it up to 20 and use some blue thread locker along with it. In case anyone's asking, here's the belt routing. I'll just leave that for a second there. So what I've got routed is pretty much everything except for the supercharger. I'm going to try to keep that in place while I drop it in, just by holding it there with this bottle. We'll see how that goes though. And I've got catch can out of the way. The rest of the air intake and the filter are not secured. Alternator just went back in. So really all I have to do is hold this guy in place, route the drain line forward through there, make sure I reconnect this, which I think is tied to the air conditioning. I didn't take a good look. And then secure those three bolts with these two adapters. Alright, something to note about this mounting bracket is these holes are not evenly spaced from the radius at each end. You see this is a little bit larger at the top. That one is what goes on top. So it'll go this way, the one with the larger distance up. What I'm going to do is run this bolt in this direction. That way I have more room when I'm going to adjust the tightener here, the tensioner. And the other bolt I'm going to run in the opposite direction because it's going to come out down here, and I have plenty of room for to have the nut and washer there, which has a much higher length or depth than just the head of the bolt. It's a little bit difficult to see, but back here, right there, is where this non-directional spacer is going to go. So it doesn't matter which way you orient it. And then the nut will end up on the back side right there. So the reason for that is because this ProCharger, right here's ProCharger down here, there's this other mounting plate attached to it. This is secured. It's fully captured inside of there. So we don't have to worry about getting this guy anywhere other than lined up. And then here you can see the oil drain line. I've just got these items, this Tessa tape wrapped around where it rubs on something else, just so they're not damaging each other. It's been a while since I touched this, so I'm going to see how this works. I'm going to try to just loosely secure this, plop the supercharger in here, route the hose down this way, and see if I can get the belt on. And then as I work it up, I'll push the bolts through. Supercharger sitting up here. I've got the hose kind of starting to route where I need it to go. So the hose is down where it needs to go. I've still got that cover on the impeller side. On the discharge side, I need to walk the discharge onto that piping that runs to the intercoolers at the same time as walking this forward. I also got the bottle out of the way and moved the belt. I just kind of tucked it in over here for now. One thing I'm finding I have to do is put this sleeve on first. Finagling this a bit more. Just put a few threads on here to help hold this in place. And I routed the belt on top of here and took it off of the alternator because it had jumped off the water pump. So I think it'll be easier to put that one on because that's a much smaller pulley and doesn't have the large height that the supercharger one does. Alright, I pushed everything down just so I could pass this one bolt through. This part of the supercharger is pretty secure. Now I'm going to try to connect to the discharge side there. It'll be difficult to see, but I did get that discharge hose around the outlet of the supercharger. I had to come in from underneath, basically stick my hand between the radiator and the power steering cooler, and then I ran the second bolt in but not all the way just to help stabilize it. So I'll start tightening these up very slowly, see if that helps position it, see if I can throw the belt back on the alternator over there. And to be clear, that outlet hose is not secured yet. It's loose because everything's gonna shift, as it goes into position. Now that everything's pretty close in position, I was able to just throw the alternator belt back on there. So this is what we're gonna look at for tensioning. That'll be a different video though. So all the mounting hardware for the Supercharger's in place. Last time I had this lower one reversed, but I found some obstructions this time around, namely this hose that didn't make it too easy for me. All right, set to 20 foot-pounds here. Looks like I'll need a crow's foot for that one. Come in here and tighten these two. Again, 14 millimeter. This one, be careful that you're not pushing up against the coolant reservoir very much. It's just plastic. And you get a crow's foot for that last one there. Alright, I'm going to try to pull the Supercharger up while I do this. I'm going to go through one more time, just in case things settle a little bit, since there's a lot of overhung mass there. And then I'm going to go underneath and squeeze the discharge line and see if I can line it up better and tighten that hose clamp up. Okay, so that's all tightened up. Did another pass. I'm going to go underneath now and try to secure that hose a little bit better. I'm not going to show it in the video. It's basically me just manipulating it and trying to push it up further. All right, so I got underneath, worked it as far over as I could, and then I went across from the driver's side and was able to push cross car towards it. And you can see the hose is bottomed out against that structural component right there. So it's not going on any further. So let me drop that clamp in the right place and I'll tighten it up. Just to show what this looks like from underneath, this is where I've been working. You do have to watch out with the power steering cooler. You bend some fins and cut your hand up pretty good. So it looks like I tightened up all the hose clamps last time to 5 Newton meters. So I'll start this out by hand. I'll see if I can do anything about that, but I have to use like a 12-inch extension and at least one swivel. So that might just go and be hand tight. Before I do that, one thing I can do really quickly is reconnect this. So I tighten up that hose with this 8mm socket, and it's 1/4-inch drive thumb wheel, right? It's a little bit smaller diameter. It's basically till it starts hurting my hand, just from checking 1 or 2 of the other hoses that I had secured with the torque wrench. It's around the same level of tightness. The hose clamp is secured, and I took this apart just to go and wash the filter. So that'll be the end of this video. The next video, we'll be tightening up the Supercharger belt. I did just check the routing again, and it's good. Oh, one last thing. I realized I did not secure the oil drain line for the Supercharger, and I do need to fill it up with new fluid. I did half the oil change, which was just the removal. So I'm going to set up my zip ties again here. I believe it was 3 of them, and fill it up. But I'm not going to... maybe I'll show in this video.